boop, I'm streaming. I have no concept for how reliable OBS is going to be today, but I am going to change a couple things here just to hopefully improve performance. I'm going to set the affinity of OBS to just my last four processors. Firefox would probably be good to set to maybe 2 processors. And what the heck, as long as we're fiddling, let's give opentoonz 543, and let's give Blender 012. Okay, maybe that'll make a difference, maybe it won't, but I'm going to go ahead and live stream. Okay, so I was working on this just a short time ago, and so I've done a couple things in the meantime since my last video ended, so that's why I'm going to continue from here, and I'm just going to live stream it because I don't really feel like messing with editing videos. So there's a couple steps I'm taking here where you could probably argue that I'm rushing it a little bit. Initially in opentoonz we had an image sequence that ended with I'll show you what it ended with. It ended with this shot. So clearly the window was in the wrong place. Okay, window's in the wrong place. What are we going to do about that? Well, I just went ahead and went into opentoonz and just painted into it. I just grabbed this image and here, obviously in the viewport, so I could see what I'm doing, but basically I just grabbed a marker and say, hey, let's just do a little painting. And now, and then I also, by the way, this is kind of important, these beams here, I took these beams and with the A key, you can see how tilted that is. Initially that was kind of centered in the frame, so I moved it, scaled it, rotated it, got it positioned better so that when I go ahead and look at the preview of this, you can see it kind of sort of seems to come from a better place. Now I'm going to see if maybe a little more tweakage would be useful, because you see it is a little brighter here at the top, and that may be a function more of the post-production process than it is of the positioning of the image. But just to see, let's just move it like that and see what happens. Yeah, I mean that helps. That helps because you can just kind of see those beams. You know, they're definitely blurred out, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it a slight rotation. I like that. I like that. I think that's cool. We got this little tiny kiss of those beams coming in. So now the question becomes, how are we going to match this to what we did in Blender? Frankly, probably the easiest way to do it, if the truth be known, would be to do the whole Blender scene without Akari in there. And let me think about this for a second. I'll have to think about this. I would have to replace the background that carries on from there, where the guys climb in to the space, and you can see a little glitch there in the image that needs to be edited and fixed. And then it switches to this top view. So at the point of this top view, we're going to either have to switch background images or else move it around in 3D space so that it kind of sort of works. It's so dark in this room that it really shouldn't matter. So I'm kind of deferring on this step right here. At this step, we're going to have an opening here. Well, let's try this. As long as I'm feeling bold, why don't we just try this? Let me see this. I don't have automatic keying turned on, so let me hit the G key. Okay, so that's doing what I expected. So how would I handle this? Okay, here's how I'd handle it. I'm going to go, let's rotate this on the X. And actually, I guess we would be rotating it back. It's hard to sort of get Blender to behave itself here. Is that right? Okay, Mr. Dyslexia here. I've got to really think about what I'm doing. Yeah, it seems to me that if we're switching to a top view, we would actually want to rotate it forward. Like that. The problem is Okay, so let's do it this way. Let's just rotate it like this. Go. This is such a kludge what I'm doing here. But the thing is, it just might work. Okay, so I'm just rotating it in 3D space. Gonna have to scale it down. Frankly, yeah, this is definitely, well, I shouldn't say definitely, but I'm seriously wondering if this could possibly work. Well, I'm going to do the unthinkable. I'm going to scale it on the X -1. Did that work? Scale X -1. That didn't seem to work. Okay. Scale X. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that, this is like absolutely the dumbest possible way to try to do this. But I might get lucky. I might get lucky here. Okay, grabbing that plane again, we can see that the scaling, oh wait, that's the background, hold on. Well, yeah, that's the background image. See, this is where it gets a little bit persnickety. So where, okay, so you can see what my problem is where the heck did my plane go? Did I scale it up so amazingly large? There it is. Okay, so now we're going to move it forward. You'll see how this is all going to play out. And by the way, I don't have my YouTube live streaming window open, so I don't even know who's watching right now. I want to sort of get through this first little challenge before I attend to that. So if we're going to do it that way, then we want to scale it. I'm going to go over here so you can kind of see what I'm trying to do here. It really seems pretty dumb, but like I said, it just might work. So it's worth a try. Okay. Now what I really need to do is hit the comma so that it, when it scales, it centers on its own center point. Okay. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm in the dope sheet. I'm in the camera, or not camera, I don't want the camera. Don't be stupid, Dave. I want this here object right here. Let's grab this here object. Is it? Nope, I got the wrong one. Okay, what is this guy called? He's called plane. That's really stupid. Let's call this floor, so at least in the outline view I can I can see it. Yep. Okay. So now over here I can find the plane. It should be selected actually, since I selected it here. And where is it? Okay, are we going to get some more Blender weirdness? I selected Akari in bed. I selected that plane. It's selected in the 3D view. I see it selected in the dope sheet. However, the floor, I see it selected here. I see it selected here. Where is it in the dope sheet? Ah! Wait. That's the camera. So where is it? You tell me. Where is it? I was ranting in the previous video, and I was really hoping to like stop ranting, but here you go. Here's a wonderful example of the kind of stupid stuff I just see happen over and over and over again. I'm sure it's something I'm doing wrong. So if I select the Akari plane, there it is. But if I select the floor plane, oh, can't see it. That means that I can't manipulate the interpolation of the keys because I can't see the keys because I can't see the object in the dope sheet. So now the question must be, why would that be? It must be parented to something. I don't remember parenting it to anything, but you guys have probably, if you've watched me at all, this is what you've come to expect. We go into a video with the intent to do XYZ, we're going to go, and within 2 minutes, we bump into something that's so utterly ridiculous that it winds up wasting all of our time, which is what I was ranting about earlier. And clearly we are in the same boat again. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and go to my channel and see what's going on with the live stream. Notice the... Okay, there's 2 watching. Hey, J Parks, what's going on, man? So let's so if I move the okay, because the positioning of the plane didn't have a keyframe associated with it before I just did what I just did, I literally just destroyed my scene. So now what I got to do is figure out if Blender is going to let me fix it. Alright, so I'm going to scale back here, and what I'm looking for is there's my plane and it's selected. So now I'm just going to keep hitting undo over and over. Undo, undo, undo. And Blender just blew up. Oh, do the letters OMG come to mind? Yeah, they come to mind. You know. So amazingly stupid. Just explosions and blow-ups left and right, and you just can't do nothing without everything just like blowing up on you. Alright. So now, somewhat ironically, it looks like the actual scene that I was just working on okay, that's interesting. Okay, so this is the scene I was just working on. It's like, why do I bother to live stream? Everything goes to pot the minute I start live streaming. It's amazing. I've got this curse. This happens to me in my music studio as well. I can have all my equipment dialed in, works flawlessly for months. Literally months. Never a hiccup. Never a glitch. The minute someone else comes in the studio or I'm trying to work with somebody, things start breaking. They just like boom, boom, boom. They're just breaking. Left and right. It's incredible. Okay, so tis what it is. So at this point, what do? I actually reopen the scene, and for some inexplicable reason, it appears to me that the background image doesn't really want to show its material. There, I'm seeing it. Okay. I think that I'm going to actually have to subdivide this plane and do some pretty serious dinking around with it. So, with that in mind, I guess I want to do as little as possible. So, I'm going to grab the plane. Make sure I'm grabbing the right one here. That seems to be the one. Let's go back to the beginning and let's just insert a key for location, rotation, and scale. Okay, now as expected, that explains it. Objects are not allowed to show up in the dope sheet unless and until they actually have animation keyframes baked into them. Okay, so now I just typed in a name and hit enter and something changed here. Now that says spin, which is an empty. And interestingly enough, okay, so did Blender re-alphabetize it? Maybe it did, and it thinks that F comes after L and M, and so it moved it down here in the dope sheet. Your guess is as good as mine. What just happened? I don't really know, don't really care. But what we do know is that, and I should show this too, in the previous video, I did not have this. I didn't have this in there, okay? So now we've got this big background image that seems to work, with the camera move. Is that really accurate from a physics standpoint? I don't have a clue, but it looks cool. So now getting back to the task at hand, what I was trying to figure out is there a way to go ahead and use this same background image here? And if I'm going to do that, the way I would have to do it is I would have to bend it and break it. I think that's the problem. I would actually have to take the bottom part of the image. I could make a duplicate of it though, come to think of it. So that's what we'll do. We'll say, let's forget about the floor. We don't care about the floor. I'm sorry. Let's forget about the wall. And let's just get the floor in there. Can't hurt. No harm, no foul, right? So with that, let's rotate this guy on the X. Actually, we don't need to rotate it on the X because, remember, we're not really responding to the camera positioning. We're dealing with, what am I trying to say? The change of position of the characters relative to the camera for this shot had nothing to do with the camera moving. It just had to do with me drawing the characters as if they were in a different place. So what I'm trying to get to here is that this texture isn't really going to work from a perspective standpoint. Whoops, that's definitely not what we wanted. Let's just go back to object mode, and then I want to see what I can see. So the problem I'm having right now is it's 3 photons too dark for me to really see what the texture's doing. If I had just 3 more photons of light, I'd be able to see it. Yep, there it is. Okay. So yeah, this is definitely a fool's errand, so forget it. We're not going to do it that way. So we'll come back to that. So we've got the background in there. So then the question is, what do we do next? Well, we're going to have to deal with the Ninja's shadows. We're going to have to deal with cleaning up that background image. We're going to have to deal with the volumetrics. The long story short is we're going to have to deal with a lot of stuff. And as anybody who's been watching along for any length of time will notice, I've been really questioning at many steps along the way whether I actually did this very intelligently. Because, first of all, if we look at this shot, okay, that looks pretty good. I mean, I like the way that looks. And then we have to transition that shot to here in Blender so that we can have this 3D camera move, which looks something like that. So these guys come in, yada yada yada. Looks like the image is slightly out of whack. But if we go into rendered mode, let's just take a look at that and see if that's... I notice sometimes things line up a little bit differently, but no, it looks like this image really needs to be moved a little bit. So let's go back to material mode and fix that. Okay, you can see what the problem is. I'm going to hit the G key and then shift. That's what I'm wanting to do. If it's not completely exact, that's okay, but it needs to be in the zone. Okay, so the problem is, oh, irony of ironies. The problem is that I just inserted a keyframe 10 seconds ago that locked it to a different position. So what does that mean? Well, that means that I got to go into my dope sheet, and if I click on that keyframe right there, I'm not going to click on it. I'm going to delete it. Okay. The reason I delete, if I didn't delete that, then when I move this right now, the plane that I just moved would bounce back to where it was before. You get that? So, all right. So that's cool. And yep, that's cool too. So everything's cool. So that means let's continue reconnecting. So sorry about that, guys. Seems to happen every few minutes. And I'm not the only guy in the world who deals with little disconnections. So, but you can see here, if we go ahead and recomposite the grease pencil strokes back over our shot, then we get this, which is probably going to be preferred, but it's not essential that we have them in there. And in some ways it may make it actually more difficult to get a look that's... long story short is we can recomposite those grease pencil strokes in any time we want. We've got the image sequence on disk, so we can always add it at any point. Okay. So now one thing that's jumping out at me is this little issue with my background image. So let's jump over to GIMP and see what we've got here. Yeah, that could be a problem there, folks. So let's hit the P key. So we got our paintbrush. Let's reduce the size of our brush considerably, and let's sample this here color, and let's fix this completely stupid looking problem. Alright, and I'm gonna hit the I'm actually gonna hit Shift E, which invokes my eraser, so that way I can just basically deal with the alpha channel and the paint together at the same time. So let's just fix up some of these little bits of voodoo that aren't really acceptable, and because we do need to have a background image that's pretty clean. It doesn't have to be perfect, because again, it is pretty dark in this shot. Obviously trying to hit the P key there. In GIMP, the hotkey for painting is P, not D is what it is in Blender Grease Pencil. B is what it is in almost every other program on the planet, not GIMP. So let's hit the O key and then P. Alright, so now this is a cool thing. If I hit this and go ahead and overwrite this, wango bango, it's gonna if I reload the Blender project, it will reload for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's see what gets broken when I reload. Okay, so you can see that the image updated, so that's cool. Okay, so not too horrible here, not too horrible. I still love the camera move, but man, I gave myself a lot of extra work by doing it this way. Okay, so now the thing I'm thinking is, should I even be thinking about this next shot, or should I just get this first shot dialed in perfect, bring it into Vegas, bring it into opentoonz, and treat them separately? I'm thinking that would probably be well advised at this point, but let me see here. So a lot of the process right now, unfortunately, has to do with really just making creative decisions as we go. If I go ahead and render this, you know, it looks pretty good. Obviously, it's putting the vase back in there. But I'm thinking what I need to do is I want to go into Krita, and I want to make a modification to this entire sequence, because I want these guys to be having like a backlight. I want some rim lighting on these guys. I don't think it looks cool enough at this point. So let's think about that. If I was going to do it in opentoonz, actually, let me stop and say this. The smartest workflow at this point, based on everything I'm seeing, would probably be to actually take each of these components of the scene, render them separately. It'd be way easier to deal with single frame images that are just animated, but the problem is, to get it into opentoonz, I've got to import it in there if I don't want to recreate all the animation. So that means I'm going to have image sequences where the animation and the camera move is all baked in to those image sequences. And that's fine. I can bring that into opentoonz, and then I can do compositing from there. So if I was going to do this in opentoonz, I'm just thinking out loud here, folks. Just thinking out loud. Two options. Do it in Krita, do it in opentoonz. If I do it in Krita, I should do it the same way I would do it in opentoonz, which would be to duplicate the layer, add the rim shot or the rim light glow, mask it properly, and then go back in, and in other words, I'm going to let the animation of the characters dictate where that rim light goes, as opposed to painting it. If I paint it, it's definitely going to chatter. It's not going to look good. So let's do it. We're gonna rock and roll here, folks. We're gonna go back to Krita. Okay. All right. So now here's how we should play this. Let's do this. Let's duplicate this layer. All right. And now let's drag this layer down to the bottom. And the reason I'm doing that, and I'm going to change it from multiply back to normal mode. Okay. And I'm going to turn off this, and I'm going to crank up the opacity. Okay. Why am I doing that? I'm only doing that so that I have a bit of a frame of reference for what it looks like in Blender. Okay, obviously we've got this lighting out here, so it's not going to be completely accurate, but I'd rather have a darker background than a lighter one. Okay, I'm not completely happy with that background, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter to adjust the, let's just do color, I don't want to do color balance. Let's do filter, adjust hue, saturation value. Let's turn down the saturation, and let's even turn the lightness down too, so it's pretty dark. Okay. Cool. Alright, so now we have this backdrop. So now this, if there's anywhere in this video where maybe you people out there might learn something, this is probably where it's going to happen. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. First thing I'm going to do is group these guys. I believe that's Control G. So now I have just taken all of these layers and created a group. Now I'm going to close the group, and I'm going to duplicate it. Now as you can see, I have two matching groups. This group on top is going to be my glow, so I'm going to call the group glow. Okay. Now to an extent I have to think about how to do this as I'm doing it, but the concept is this. I want to take this sequence and bake it down to flat. Okay, so let's do that. Let's bake it down to flat, and hopefully this will work. So I'm going to hit Control E, and what Krita is doing now is it's merging the selected nodes. So it's taking all of those and it's baking them down into a single sequence. Okay, will this work? Well, let's turn this off and let's turn this off. And what we see is exactly what we wanted. We now have the entire sequence with our guys. And by the way, the reason I'm not baking down the main group is because I may want to change it. So I don't want to bake it together yet. But for this part, I can go ahead and bake it. Now, what I want to do is I want to turn this essentially into a mask. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it again and turn this one off. And now the problem is, what I want to do is make this all black. But if I use an adjustment to make it black, it's only going to make it black on the single frame that I just selected. That won't work. What I need to do is I need to add a filter mask. Filter mask, and then I'll go ahead and use levels, and we'll put the output levels to 0. And as you can see, what that filter mask did was it made everything black. Okay. And again, I got to save, early save off. And according to Krita, this is absolutely beyond ludicrous. But yes, in fact, Krita sees this file currently taking up 3.4 gigabytes of memory, which is just crazy. But that's Krita. Krita's a memory hog. Okay, so now that we have that, do we need this one? Actually, maybe we do. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, I gotta really be careful here. I think what I want to do is bake down this sequence as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy and move him down out of the group. Okay, did that move him into the other group? Oh yeah, okay, so there's the group. And here's the background. I'm kind of evaluating here what I'm seeing and what I'm not seeing. That's the copy merged. Okay. Oh, that's the filter mask. Okay. So now I have a Krita question here. Krita, if I do a merge of the filter mask to the layer that it's filtering, does it bake it into the animation? I'm going to hit Control E and find out. And the answer is no, you can't do it. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could take the filter and apply it to the whole image sequence? So now we have an image sequence that's actually got the filter cooked into it. Nope, can't do it. Now I could flatten out this entire group, and so that's probably the way I'm going to do it. But if I'm going to do that, then I really want to take this layer and just hide it down here at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to turn everything off and then turn this one on just so you can see this is the flattened out layer with the color baked in. So I think if I take these three and hit Control E, come on, come on. Seems like a pretty obvious thing to want to do, doesn't it? Okay, it looks like something's happening here. What is this? So how do we apply the filter mask? Let's merge the group. No, that's what I just tried to do. Ah, there it's flattening it. Okay. I guess I needed to have just the group layer selected. Yes. I needed to have just the group selected, not the individual layers in the group. I'm trying to say levels because levels is the term we use in opentoonz. Okay, so why did I do that? Well, let's find out. First thing we're going to do is move this up here and put it on top of it. So as you can see in Krita, the top layers are on top. In a lot of programs it's the opposite because you think of it as a progression through the layers. So whatever is included last is laid on top. So Krita, which is more intuitive? I don't know. It's probably 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But what I want to do here now is I want to take this layer, and gosh, I hate to do it, but I'm going to have to add another I'm going to add another filter mask. And I'm actually going to add the same thing, but I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to let it have just a little bit of maybe some color. Okay. Now let's just see if we can flatten that and see if it okay. Okay, we want to flatten the layer. If you flatten the layer, then any filters you've added to that layer get baked into that layer. So that's a good thing. Okay? So it's still flattening, still thinking about it. Okay. And now, Krita has actually turned into a memory conservation monster, and it has actually, even though OBS Studio has reconnected, okay, we've reconnected now, but what's interesting here, sorry about that, what's interesting about that though is that now that we've made these little changes, for some reason Krita has decided that clicking your middle mouse button and dragging no longer pans the viewport. Can't do it. No more panning. It doesn't work. So okay, things just quit working. You know, what are you gonna do? You just deal with it, right? So that's what I'm doing. Okie dokie, baby. So now it has saved the image, and now that comes back. That's great. That's what we wanted. So now what we have is this layer on top of the mask. And what happens if we take this layer and actually multiply it? Okay, I think it's the opposite that we want. I've got to kind of think about how I want to do this. So I'm going to put this layer actually up top above that one. And I'm going to put that one in multiply mode. But then, this is really important, we're going to add a transform mask to this layer, and we're going to offset it just a little bit like that. And actually, I think actually like that. Okay. Now, if this is multiplied by that, it's kind of interesting. I wonder. Okay, let me pause. What I'm actually trying to do here is use the black layer as a mask. There may be, okay. So now what we want to do is add a filter mask, and the filter is going to be a blur, Gaussian blur. We can preview it here, and by the way, I'm going to turn. Actually, before I do this, I'm going to turn this background back on because this is why I wanted the background, so I can see this. Okay. All right. So this is going to be in addition mode. There we go. Isn't that great? That looks really good. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and add a filter mask. Gaussian blur is what we decided we were going to use. There it is. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to flatten the layer. Flattening the layer takes all of those filters and transforms and bakes them in. And by using the transform mask, instead of doing a transform or a filter on the actual image, if I did it on the image, it would only do it on that one frame. But if I add a filter mask, it does it to all the frames on that layer. So this is where compositing and special effects and stuff in Krita does actually become kind of fun and interesting. But it's still in the process of flattening the layer. So unfortunately, that's going to take a bit of time. Wish it weren't true, but there it is. What I am seeing here is that maybe this is where my black transparency mask is going to come in useful, because maybe I can use that to selectively kind of get rid of some of the glows where I don't want them. Alright, but one thing's for sure is that Krita is I should stop and say Krita is probably going to explode. Right now Krita is about to blow up. And the reason it's going to blow up is because I made a critical mistake, which is to use the software to do exactly what the software purports to be able to be used for. I just used Krita as Krita. And what did that do? So it looks to me like this glow process is going to have to probably be done twice. But no big tragedy. There's hardly anything in the process of complex or cool stuff that you want to do that you don't wind up having to do it twice. It's just like par for the course. It seems to always happen. So I'm being a little bit snarky here, but the truth is it's not that big of a deal. What's going on here, unfortunately, right here in the middle of our live stream, is that Krita's operation of flattening the layer, it just won't do it. It won't do it. And if I click right now, it's going to tell me, there we go. That's what it's going to tell me. Krita died. Krita died. Might as well close the window. Nope, there's no saving it. Nope. Okay. So once again, sorry about that, folks. OBS is disconnected and reconnected again. But that's the bad news. The good news is I have reloaded Krita. And I think we're probably in good shape here. I have to remember my layers and stuff, so if I don't turn on this group, then I don't really have a way of knowing if things are looking like I want them to. Yeah, so it looks to me like this would probably be my mask. Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and rename that just so I'm not beating my head against the wall. And let's call this the mask. Alright, and always save. And unfortunately with Krita, saving kind of takes a long time too. And likely as not, it's actually going to blow up again just from saving a document. It could happen. So here's what we have. We have this underneath of this. So what I want to do is I am going to add a transform layer. transform mask, I should say. Grab this and just give it this little offset. Okay. Now, honestly, if I want to have this work the way I'd like it to work, then really what I ought to do is do a slight perspective shift here. We'll see how this goes, but I'm thinking maybe this would give me the effect I'm after. Alright, so bear with me. I'm going to hit the Enter key. Go back to my layers. File. I really want to just save, because I just don't trust Krita not to blow up a lot. Okay, so with that, what I really want to do is bake that in. So let's flatten the layer and cross your fingers. Okay, now it's going. You can see down here at the bottom of the screen, it's counting the percentages. So that means that it worked, and it's not going to blow up right now, which is cool. So let's let Krita flatten that image. So you can see what I have here. I have my character, and behind him, effectively, I've created this zone that can be turned into a glow. I wish it didn't take, a couple minutes to bake that transformation into the animation layer, but and frankly, guys, this is another example of what I'm trying to do right now. In opentoonz would take like 2 minutes. The whole process would take 2 minutes to take a layer, duplicate it, make it black or make it white, give it a glow. It's a doddle. So really doing this in Krita is mind-numbingly dumb. But to be fair, there's a lot of people out there that want to do animation with Krita and don't necessarily know how to do it or what it would take to be able to do what they want to do. So I guess I'm trying to provide a little bit of a good service here. Okay, so let's save our work. Hate to keep delaying by taking these precautionary steps, but if I don't do it, I'm probably going to pay for it later. So saving our document. I'm not really a guru with Krita when it comes to dealing with masks and stuff, so but let's just keep going. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a filter mask, which is what we did before, and we're going to make it a Gaussian blur. Actually, stop. Tell you what I'm going to do. I want to have one layer. I want to have one layer that's a rim light and one layer that's a glow. I'm getting ambitious here. So actually, I need to duplicate this layer, and then we'll just turn that one off for the moment. This one, I got to reverse what I did before, because this will make sense after I have done it, I think. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a transform mask. And I'm going to grab this guy, and I'm just going to bring him down to here. I need to zoom in close so I can see. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, I think that looks okay. All right, now I need to turn that off, and I think what I want to do is, this is really going to be kind of tricky, but when you see what I'm going to do here, it's going to make sense. You're going to go, oh, that's kind of cool. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this layer and I'm actually going to move it back over top. Okay, but I'm going to put limit the alpha. That's going to clamp that in. And then what I'm going to do, and I'm going to duplicate this layer too, just because I want to be kind of careful here. So now I'm going to move the Okay, I didn't mean to do that. That needs to go there. I'm going to turn the mask on. Let's turn the mask back off. We can see that's doing what we want. Now this is where it's going to get a little confusing. Let's turn the mask on, but have it respect the alpha. Okay. I don't know if I've got this quite right, but I think I do. So now what I want to do is add a transform mask to this. And move it down like that. Okay. And now I'm going to flatten that layer. So what I've done is I've taken the mask layer and I've offset it a little bit. But then that mask layer is going to be clamped to the alpha of the character itself. That means the black is only going to appear within the character. Okay? So it's flattening the layer even as we speak. Okay. Now, if I turn this on, you can see what happens. So now we've got black everywhere except on the edge. Okay, so now let's turn this layer on. And actually, I'm going to turn this back off. Okay. Now, this is going to be tricky. This is clamped to the alpha for this. And if this is clamped to the alpha, do we need to put this up there? Yes. That's what we want. Okay. Okay. File. Save. Okay, you can see what's going on. Okay. And then what we're going to do, I hope this works, is we're going to merge this down. Okay, that's going to take a second. So now we're taking the black and the white that is only visible along the edge, and we're going to merge it down, and then we're going to put it in additive mode, and that will create a rim light on our character. Make sense? I'll say it again. Doing the same thing in opentoonz would have taken just a couple minutes. It's incredibly laborious in Krita, but it's also cool that you can do it in Krita. And if you get good with working with these like transform layers and filter layers in Krita, there is a lot you can do from a post-production standpoint. Okay, so we're going to call this rim light. And it would be really prudent to save my work at this point. Save, save, save. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the rim light layer and we're going to put it in, well, let's put it in screen mode. Okay? And look what just happened. Now, our ninja. Okay, wait a second. Okay, one problem though. It's got to be clamped to the alpha. You got to clamp it to the alpha. So now look what just happened. Now we've got this gorgeous rim light. That worked out pretty well. It's going to need a transform because it's really not in quite the right position. And we can go in and add our glow. And it's all going to port over to Blender just fine. I think what I'll do though is when I render it, I'm going to resave the project. And yeah, see, you can see. Okay, actually I didn't have to reactivate that. So you can see that that has now given me my rim light on my character. Okay, and I'm not sure I'm liking the, I'm going to put this in overlay mode. Really? That's what it's going to do? Oh, I see. Yes. The mask would have to be gray, not black, in order for overlay mode to work properly. So let's try multiply. Okay. Gosh, what do we want? Soft light doesn't work. I should have made the mask gray, not black. Don't you hate when stuff like that happens? Okay, if we do addition, actually that might be okay. That's going to lighten it up a little bit. The thing that's confusing me here a bit though is why would there be any lightening up if you add black to something? You don't get anything other than still black. So it's not quite making perfect sense to me. However, all I wanted was a rim light, and I got my rim light. So let's quit complaining. Okay, so with that, I need to add my glow. So, up, Krita just stopped working. And by the way, I think Krita stopped working half a second before I would have saved my work. So I probably just lost a bunch of work because I don't remember when I saved last. But, yep, as usual, Krita has died. So, yet another reason why I tend to favor opentoonz. Opentoonz crashes, but it doesn't... If you know what you're doing, you learn the things that cause crashes and you avoid them and you don't get as many crashes. So, can we salvage the situation? What time is it? 1:18. Okay, I got to load this up, and then I'm going to have to split. I'm actually going to have to stop and regroup later. I've been going almost an hour, and I've got to go do some things. So with that, since we had a crash, let's just call it a day for the moment. And probably when I go to the next level, which is going to be put that glow in there and all the rest, I'm probably not going to live stream it. I think I'm going to probably just record it. But that will do for now, and we'll catch y'all later.